Hey, welcome back. This is Dave with Brazos Barbell, and today we're going to be discussing some fixes for potential weaknesses on deadlifts. So what I'm going to try to do today is separate things into either upper body weaknesses or lower body weaknesses on why you're potentially failing your deadlifts, or really just defining a position that will, something that you can go after to make your deadlift really improve substantially more than anything. So I think the first thing that we can do here, or what we'll need to do, is just assume that the lifter is in a technically efficient position. So I have other videos about trying to find efficient positions and those kind of things and pulling slack and all of that. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to assume that those things are going well. So besides technical issues and the setup and everything, these will just be weaknesses, individual weaknesses of the lifter that we can hopefully address to try to strengthen the all-around deadlift. So what I want to try to do is separate things into either upper body weakness, which would probably better defined as upper back, or lower body weaknesses, which can be hamstrings, quads, depending on whether it's going to be sumo or conventional. So for the most part, the things that I'm going to say will probably work well for both sumo and conventional, with probably the difference if I say legs, conventional will probably be looking more at hamstrings, hip strength, that kind of thing. And then legs for sumo would be quads. And then we can even say some of the abduction strength to help you stay in a position. But again, we're assuming that the lifter off the floor isn't having something like their knees collapsing in the sumo. So that's one of the big things that we'll hopefully try to address today. So starting with the upper back strength, or upper back weakness, I guess in this case for the lifter, some of the defining qualities, some of the things that you'll see with somebody who's lacking upper back strength is probably going to be more so that they miss a lift around their knees, at lockout, that kind of thing. They generally have better speed off the floor, but then their back, their shoulders get a little bit more rounded, and after about halfway up, the lifts start to be a whole lot more challenging. So some of the things that I really like to do with people, block deadlifts. Block deadlifts, I didn't used to include in programming, and I guess it's one of those things, those specificity things that we all are really trying to go after all the time. And so I was reluctant to put them into programs, but what I've found with a lot of people, especially lifters with shorter arms, doing block deadlifts can really help overload their upper back, where sometimes they struggle to just get in a good enough position off the floor to maintain good tension through the rest of the lift. So what I've found with some of the lifters who struggle to get in good position is that we can replicate good position lots and lots and lots of times and have them find that what it feels like to have better back tension. And so then when we pull from the floor, they have that stimulus, they have that feeling of what it's like to have that good tightness through the whole lift, and they haven't had to sacrifice good posture to get into the position off the floor, and they've been able to feel ideal position and get it going. So I've used this pretty successfully with a couple of lifters around the gym. We're not using very high blocks. We're using about a 1.5 inch little rubber mat from Rogue, and that seemed to work really, really well. I've actually had some lifters, one in particular, I think the best pull that he did off of the floor was something like, maybe even off the blocks, was something like 525. He only had 2 sessions off the floor, only pulled twice off the floor. We were dealing with a little bit of a back injury, and then going into a competition pulled 585, which was well above anything that we were expecting to happen. And so I've through trial and error, I've seen this happen pretty consistently with a lot of lifters, is we don't really lose much going to the floor if we're implementing it well. So I'm using this for people who struggle to maintain back tightness and hopefully replicate good position. If you're not somebody who those issues apply to, I don't think that it will work as well. So like with myself, I don't do any pulling off blocks. That's not where I'm weak. So if I were to follow the same protocol that I would with those lifters, I don't think that it would transfer well, and I assume I would probably do worse. So the block deadlifts. Now, in conjunction with those, we do have to spend some time strengthening that 1.5 inches that we're missing. So again, pause deadlifts. Probably in both categories here for leg strength and upper back strength, because it's reinforcing good position and having the lifter spend a little bit more time in that bottom position. So most of the lifter's heavy work, I'm having them do off blocks, and then lighter, more rep work, I'm having them do off the floor, a lot of times with pauses. So they have the feeling of what it's like, and they get the overload from the block position, but then we spend time there just having to replicate that position with lighter weight and hold that position through the pauses. Another thing that just can't be dismissed is how much direct upper back work can help. Doing things like bent over rows and lat pull downs and seated rows and all those kind of things that can really strengthen the upper back will go a long way in just building musculature. So that's probably a huge factor long term, can be really beneficial for making the lifter stronger and stop missing lifts around the middle, and that just takes time. So both of those repetitions and building musculature will go a long way. So, and touch and go deadlifts can be a huge one for developing upper back strength with lifters. It's probably not going to be a great tool very close to competitions because we need to know how to get the bar off the floor. That first rep usually is the hardest rep. I think a lot of times lifters will see if they get one, they can get a whole lot more than that, but sometimes they'll fail on one, where if they would have gotten that first one, they could get a lot. But touch and go deadlifts can teach a lifter to maintain that back tightness, rigidity, and maintain that position that their back needs to be in through numerous reps. So I include these more in off-season blocks and a little bit for higher reps. Sometimes, especially for conventional deadlifters, I include touch and go deadlifts a lot. And we're going after hamstrings, we're going after upper back strength. But touch and go deadlifts can be a very, very useful tool as long as we're kind of doing the same things like we did off blocks, as we still have to be maintaining specificity and being able to pull from the floor for that single rep effectively. So some of the things I haven't done a whole lot, but I think can be really beneficial, things like front squats, and then even I do occasionally some bottoms up zerchers from our racks, and those kind of things can really challenge the upper back. I think the problem with those is they're probably too fatiguing, and sometimes they're hard to fit into the context of a program. So maybe more off-season work or those kind of things, I think they can be good. And really, I'm not saying they're bad at all. Just sometimes they're hard to fit into a program that can potentially already be pretty challenging. So next, we'll move into what I would define as lower body strength or leg strength. Mostly these will be defined, or it'll be characterized as lifters missing the weight directly off the floor. So for lifters who struggle getting the weight off the floor, we would generally define that as leg strength. And this is potentially a frustrating issue, but I think it's probably the easier issue, is we can say you're just not strong enough, right? Is that if you're maintaining, if your upper back stays really, really tight, you stay in a good position, and the weight just doesn't move, it's a frustrating issue to have, but at least the technique issues are intact, and we're not having some sort of, like with the upper back issues, that's something that's going to be a long-term fix, really having to drill in, building muscle, getting stronger up there, where with this one, at least the technique is staying good, and we just have to work the deadlift, get stronger. So with those, we can do things, again, the pause deadlift shows up, is that spending more time around that bottom position is going to be crucial. So pause deadlifts are good for either side, wherever your weakness is, but we probably also need to build confidence in that lifter that they can really get the weight moving. So getting rid of the pauses can be a good thing to help get acceleration with that, or just teach the lifter to pull fast. The one issue I think the pauses have is that sometimes we anticipate the pause, maybe hold the bar a little bit closer, hold our backs a little bit tighter. That shouldn't be happening, but I know sometimes it does from my personal experience and with other people. Sometimes it doesn't happen with lifters, and great, we keep them in for a long time. But other ones for building leg strength, if we're a sumo lifter, then doing squats, belt squats, any sort of direct quad work can be a really, really great, useful tool. For a conventional deadlifter, it may be more something like Romanian deadlifts. Again, touch and go deadlifts can show up, but that's probably not going to be, they're probably in too much of an efficient position already past that first pull, and we're skipping that bottom phase. So touch and goes can be useful, but I would go for more of like a stiff leg deadlift, Romanian deadlift, and even some direct hamstring work. But leg curls and glute ham raises I think are beneficial for like general hypertrophy of the hamstrings, but the hamstring crosses both joint, the knee joint and the hip joint, and we can be a little bit more specific about what we're challenging. So like the Romanian deadlifts and good mornings and those kind of things probably will benefit a little bit more, especially immediately, than the ones that are knee dominant, like hamstring curls and glute ham raises. They'll both be beneficial, but we may see a little bit of a transfer a little bit quicker with the hip dominant ones. So thanks for watching the video. I actually am planning on having a conventional deadlift video coming out soon. As soon as I get done with this competition that I have in 3 weeks, I'll be making a specific conventional deadlift video for setup and bar position and all those kind of things. So I know people have been asking for that one. So that one is coming hopefully here pretty soon. So thanks for watching the channel. Give me a thumbs up. See you next time.